Welcome to Saints Happy Hour podcast. We always have a source.
Dave remains quiet because he continues to search for shit that he can't find.
Oh, what did Nola Fredo say?
Yeah, try to get saved by Nola Fredo. That's a great strategy.
Now grab a drink and enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. Thanks for joining us. I got Dave with me, and Thomas will do all the editing and polling for this post-production. If you're finding us on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. It helps us, and it doesn't cost you anything. We would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so Dave, I don't know how long we've been doing this, but it's been we've done like 7 or 8 of these things where in the summer, for the time when the Saints don't have any news and everybody's gone and the media's on vacation and the Saints are scattered to the wind, we had to come up with content for the podcast. So we started doing a bracket. And instead of like everybody else who does the brackets in March, we were like, we don't need a bracket in March because that's free agency. We need a Saints bracket in the summer. So we've done different topics. We've done the Saints. We've done the worst quarterback. We've done Saints villain. We've done most hated Saint ever. We've done greatest plays in Saints history. But this year's topic, I think it's got a chance to be a really fun one. This is a bracket of Mickey Loomis's worst ideas. And I'm gonna preface it by explaining to people what is a bad Mickey Loomis idea. That means it didn't have to happen. It just has to be something the Saints wanted to do that would have been terrible. I'll give you an example. They wanted to sign Josh Norman. That was a bad idea. They wanted to trade for Deshaun Watson. A terrible idea. They wanted to trade for Reuben Foster. Terrible idea. So those are Mickey Loomis' terrible ideas. What do you think about the idea of this for a bracket?
Yeah, actually, thanks for asking, because I want to go ahead and put a disclaimer out there right now. You know, Mickey, if you're listening, or if you're the intern that works for the Saints or works for Mickey, and you're in charge of, and you're tasked with listening to any and all media output, and you're listening to this podcast, I just want you to know I had nothing to do with this. I didn't want to do this. Mickey, if you see me at the drive, if you see me at the, I don't think Mickey's ever made a bad decision. I'm not even sure what we're going to fill this bracket with. And Mickey, if you see me at the driving range, if you're listening to this, this wasn't my idea. And
no, it was my idea.
I think all of your decisions have been just absolutely 100% perfect. So.
Yeah, Mickey, you can. It's my decision, and if I ever apply for like a podcast host or video editor or something, you can remember it. You can tell him tell him to just throw my resume in the trash. All right, so we got to do. It's a 16 seed bracket, but we got to do play-in games. So we got a play-in for the 16 seed and a play-in for the 15 seed. The play-in game for the 16 seed is trading all those picks for Adam Troutman or giving Nick Fairley a second contract. So what do you think is worse, the Adam Troutman trade or giving Nick Fairley a second contract?
You know, I know what people are going to think, because obviously, you know, those who are avid listeners of the podcast and who know us well, they know that I was a staunch advocate against signing Nick Fairley to a second contract after his 1-year contract expired. And but that was only because he had a history of signing contracts and getting paid and slacking off. It wasn't because I knew that he had some heart condition that would require him to stop playing altogether. And so it's kind of like, yes, I was right, but I was right for the wrong reasons. And so Mickey was wrong because Mickey was wrong because he shouldn't have given him Nick Fairley that contract.
And I think Nick Fairley
because based on the history of Nick Fairley, he shouldn't have paid him. Right, but he didn't know that he had this heart condition and that, you know, so and nobody could. So it's really hard to blame Mickey for that, and it's really hard to say that's a bad decision. So I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Troutman, and because you've got scouts, you should know how good Troutman's going to be or not going to be, and it was not well done, not well executed.
The Saints, to acquire Troutman, they traded their 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks to get the 105th pick and pick Troutman. So they gave up pick 130, 169, 203, and 244 to pick Troutman. And here's the thing.
Also, though, that might not be Mickey's fault either. That could be a Jeff Ireland. That
could be a Sean Payton. But Sean Payton's gone, and we can't tell. I guess we could have made this bracket Sean Payton's worst decisions, but we didn't. We blame all of this on Mickey Loomis. Is it his fault? Who's to say? But we're blaming him. I have to say, trading 4 picks for Troutman in 2020 when you knew the roster was starting to get old, and you knew you needed to start transitioning and getting younger people in because Drew Brees was on. 2020 he was almost on the way out. This trade was horrific. I voted for Troutman as well. And Andrew and Kevin, I believe, Kevin voted for Troutman, and Andrew voted for, I believe, Fairley. And the patrons, I want to say, voted for Adam Troutman. But it was close. It was like
so Troutman's in and Fairley's out.
Yeah, Troutman's. I mean, Troutman. Four picks for Troutman.
Yeah.
It looks even worse now that we know how the Saints roster has fallen apart. Yeah. Like, even though those 2 of those picks are in the 200s, like, you'd still rather, like, Troutman was just terrible. You know? Terrible. So, all right, we have another playing game for this. This is the 15 seed. This is hiring Mike Cirillo or trading ahead of Carolina for Tommy Stevens, laughing at the Carolina because you traded ahead of them to pick Tommy Stevens. Both horrible decisions, and trading up for Tommy Stevens has made it any worse because Sean Payton was so smug about it, and like it was like jumping ahead of a bum in the trash can to get the best piece of trash. So this one was harder than you think. For people that aren't aware, Mike Cirillo was the rat that got everything for Bountygate going and was the reason that Sean Payton got suspended, Mickey Loomis got suspended, the Saints lost a draft pick, all of it. So that's a pretty bad hire. I don't know if that was necessarily Mickey Loomis, but he's the GM, so he gets credit or blame for everything in this. I think I wanted to go Tommy Stevens because Sean Payton was just such a smug asshole during that draft.
I know, but that was almost more about that wasn't even about liking him as a quarterback. That wasn't even about wanting him on the roster. That was about like just keeping him from getting drafted by whoever he thought was going to draft him or whatever. That was like that was smugness. Smug, I guess that's fair, but it was just petty gamesmanship. Yeah. And in the long run, I don't think you could even compare the amount of damage, that did very minimal damage, wasting a late round draft pick on Tommy Stevens, compared to the damage that Cirillo did.
It's hiring
his
Cirillo
role in
was
Bountygate. So
it was a terrible idea. Mickey.
This was
horrific.
Yeah. Also, I don't think either. I think these are terrible entries in the tournament because neither of them have anything to do with Mickey. I don't think, but either way, out of these two, Cirillo is definitely the worst.
Cirillo Grand Slam. I mean, the patrons voted him. He was at 91% last time I checked it, and I mean, Andrew and Kevin and me and you, it's a clean sweep. Mike Cirillo, he's a 15 seed. So getting to the rest of this tournament, I'm just going to go through it. We're not going to we're not going to touch on them all in a lot because when we do the bracket, we'll go through. But I just want to go through quickly the seeds, and then you can give me your thoughts. And here's the thing: I put number one, worst Mickey Loomis idea. A lot of people probably watching this, they're probably thinking it's hiring Dennis Allen, signing Derek Carr. No, it's not. The worst Mickey Loomis idea was trading for Deshaun Watson. That was the worst idea he's ever had as an NFL employee, general manager, all of it. That idea was the worst.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know where you were going with that. I didn't know if you were going to say that. If you didn't say it, that was absolutely what I was going to go with. The fact that he even thought about it annoys me, and I can't believe we were that close to actually doing this. It would have been a total disaster. Deshaun Watson didn't deserve to be in the league whatsoever. He certainly is. Just lighting money on fire, and if you need any more proof of how bad of a decision it would have been, the Cleveland Browns were the ones that ended up making that decision. That should tell you everything you need to know.
They still haven't escaped it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. It's a total disaster. That should tell you everything you need to know. I cannot believe that they were even in thinking about this.
It was.
Can't believe they were even thinking about this.
And we'll get into it more as the bracket goes along because Andrew's got his sources, but I'll tell you, I remember clear as day before he signed with Cleveland on a Friday. Andrew called me and was like, "Saints think it's done. They think they got it in the bag." And it didn't happen. I mean, because at least with Derek Carr and Dennis Allen, like the Saints, after 2.5 years of that, like they're free and clear of it. Like Cleveland's still with Deshaun Watson and it's still bad. But there's a lot of things that like Mickey wanted to do that he didn't. And I'm like wanting to trade. Remember System Corner? We were going to print up T-shirts. The trade they were going to trade for Malcolm Butler. That would have been a terrible idea.
I just want to go on. If I remember correctly, you were all.
I was all in
for
System Corner. I can't
aboard that train.
I can't do revisionist history. I was all for it.
You and Andrew.
They wanted to trade up for Mac Jones. That was a horrible idea. Mm-hmm. Remember, they were on the phone with Reuben Foster. And they couldn't get it because San Francisco jumped them and they ended up getting Ramczyk, who ended up winning one of their best decisions, right? Another one, they paying Junior Gillette 2 years early, another bad decision. Wanting to sign Josh Norman. Remember, Josh Norman was in the Redskins facility and Sean Payton and Drew Brees were like on the phone with them trying to get him to not sign. Trading for Jonathan Sullivan, another bad. Signing Jarris Byrd, another one, Mickey? Dave, that we were all for. It happened during this podcast. We were pumped up about that.
No, Jarris Byrd, is that the number 2 or 3 seed? That's got to be
that's the 6 seed.
Okay.
Trading for Marcus Davenport, number 5 seed. I think this bracket. I know Deshaun Watson is a heavy favorite. I know Carr and DA could win it all. But I think there's a couple of dark horses in here. I think Jarris Byrd is a dark horse for a bad idea. And I
don't know how that could be a dark. How could you call that a dark horse?
Or I think paying Junior Gillette as the 13 seed. I think paying Junior Gillette has a shot.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Because like
Jarris Byrd, that's a 6 seed. I don't think that's a dark.
I mean, this is a strong bracket, Dave. I know you golf with Mickey Loomis and you don't want to say anything bad about it. The Saints have made a lot of bad decisions, but he's been GM for 25 years. So like he's got a lot of good decisions too. But
they're all winners. They're all winners.
Is there anything, and because we did this bracket and we did text messages and different things. Is there anything on this bracket that you look at and you're like, we don't have it? We missed it. I think we did a really good job. I don't think there's anything in the Mickey Loomis.
I would have spoken up earlier if there was something I would have thought about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this bracket because I think patrons and I think viewers of the podcast and listeners are going to have favorites that they cling on to and they make strong cases for, that it aren't just going to be like a lot of times we do these and we're like, okay, it's the number one seed, go through and blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of easy. I think this bracket could be very messy. You don't agree?
Oh, no, I didn't say I didn't agree. We will find out. Do you have a personal, not one that you think is going to win, but one, like your personal one that you're rooting for and you're going to push hard for to get to the Final Four or the finals? I'm actually, going back to the Nick Fairley thing, because obviously I've got kind of a relationship with that whole situation. But again, I don't know if I'm. So yeah, maybe that one. I might be rooting for that one. At least then I can say I told you so. You shouldn't have done that.
I think.
What were you thinking?
And this is weird because the Deshaun Watson, my feelings on it, I was very against it for a lot of reasons. His off the field stuff was gross. And I was scared that he hadn't played in 2 years. And I was like, he's been hurt a lot. I don't like to give up 3 first-round picks for a guy that hadn't played in 2 years. I think that's a bad idea besides his off the field stuff. But I'm going to tell you the one that I'm going to be rooting for and pushing hard for is wanting to trade for Mac Jones. Horrified me in a way that is really hard to describe. Like seeing Diana Russini and other NFL reporters on draft day talking about how the Saints were looking to trade up. They loved Mac Jones. It horrified me in a way because I was like, Mac Jones is terrible. He's Alabama Chad Henne. What are we doing? And it sent like shivers down my spine. So like that one was like, it hit me in a weird way. So I'm rooting for that. Like I'm going to be pulling hard. I'm going to be like the campaign manager for that one to try to usher that one through a couple of rounds. Because I think trading up for Mac Jones was a terrible, terrible idea. So that's
fair. Fair enough.
So everybody, if you like this idea, like this video, share it. But remember to follow our podcast wherever you get your podcast and follow us on social, Saints Happy Hour. And you get to vote. You get to participate because the listeners, Dave, and the viewers, they are the tie-breaking vote because it's 4 of us. We vote. And
we use them all the time. We
use them all the time. So be on the lookout on our social media to vote for the rounds. And you get to break the tie and help declare the winner of the Saints Happy Hour summer bracket, Mickey Loomis's worst idea. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks to Dave for hanging out with me. Thanks for you guys for watching or listening wherever you get your podcast. Thomas will edit the show. Back in Poland post-production. Thank you, Thomas. You're the best. Thank you guys. And until next time, the bar is closed.
It's closed.